Now, this week's episode of The Flash, in contrast to Gotham, I was actually really impressed with. I liked it not quite as much as the previous episode, but about, if I had to measure it in percents, if last episode I liked it a certain percent, then this would be about 4 or 5% down. So so it's almost on par, but not quite, if that makes any sense. Now, and this episode of The Flash basically dealt with the reemergence of Firestorm or Ronnie, and basically now the team at Star Labs, Barry, Caitlin, Cisco, and Dr. Wells, they know that through transmutation during the particle accelerator explosion, I'm not going to try to digest the science in this show, but through transmutation, Ronnie and this other scientist named Dr. Stein have essentially merged into one body, with survival of the fittest dictating which qualities of each person have become dominant. For instance, Ronnie's body is outwardly showing, but his mind has essentially been eclipsed by Dr. Stein. Now, with that being said, this is a bit of a minor tangent, but upon hearing Dr. Stein, I was thinking throughout this episode, I really want to watch Revenge of Frankenstein. But again, I digress. I'm a bit of a dork that way. Now, this episode, basically a recurring theme of this episode was life is short, and to risk not sharing it with the people we love, or at least with someone who we can actually share things with and who we can actually find some comfort in, then it's not really worth living. So that was a recurring theme in this episode. And really all of the plot lines or not really that many plot lines, the few plot lines that they had going at once all complemented that to a certain extent, each in their own ways. Now, first of all, I really like the fact that there wasn't really a quote-unquote villain in this episode. It was sort of like the Plastique episode, where this particular metahuman, or metahumans, depending on your point of view, isn't really looking to be a bad guy, isn't really looking to do anything malicious. It's just he or she is just a victim of circumstance. And what I liked about this actually lends itself to a really good performance from Robbie Amell. I was actually impressed, because I've never seen this guy in anything before, aside from his previous guest spot on here, and this one segment where he didn't particularly impress me on whose line is it anyway. But that's another story for another day. But basically, what he was doing is that since Dr. Stein is older and more pronounced and not really as young and brash as Ronnie, basically Robbie Amell was speaking in a way that A, was noticeably different from how he spoke before, and B, was a little bit more precise. He didn't really do a British accent. He didn't do a British accent, period. He was just speaking in a very clear and concise voice, as opposed to, speaking like I'm speaking, which is basically, casual, speaking very casually. There was really none of that here. It was he really sounded like a different person, is what I'm trying to say. And props to Robbie Amell for doing that. And really hammering home that, there is something off about this guy beyond his outward appearance. There's something deeper beneath him. Actually, another person beneath his outward appearance. So well done from that standpoint. And in addition, I'm actually still kind of invested in Barry Allen's love life. Now, as sissy as that sounds for a guy, if we're going by that stereotype, I do have a little bit of an issue with the character of Linda Park. Now, based on a first impression, I like this character. Malise Zhao, I think her name is, who plays her. The character of Linda Park is this very energetic, very, very perky journalist who has just a hint of sarcasm, but overall she seems like a very enjoyable person to be around, and that's fine. But really, up to this point, granted, we've only seen over 2 episodes at this point. We haven't really gotten anything beneath that. We haven't really gotten into her personality, her motivations, her backstory. And I'm not saying we have to do that for every character, but for someone who Barry Allen is interested in, I think that's a little bit, that's essential, at least a little bit down the line, if not right now. So in terms of actually giving her a deeper character, this episode kind of missed the mark on that. But in terms of making her, I hate to say plot device, but plot device of having Barry really struggle with whether or not he's ready to move on from Iris, and ultimately make a decision. I am ready to have another relationship. I can't be fixated on Iris forever. As that, she worked well, and Melise Zhao, I hope I'm saying her name right. She plays that role fairly well. However, again, I would have liked to have seen more of a character with her, but perhaps next time. And in conjunction with that, there was also some fairly compelling stuff with Dr. Stein, a character who we've never seen before. Now, in the flashbacks, he's played by Victor Garber, and obviously in the present day, he's played by Robbie Amell. And seeing him communicate with Dr. Stein's wife, and seeing him really in a visible state of mental pain and emotional pain at not having his wife recognize him and being stuck in the body of some kid he doesn't know, and inadvertently taking away this kid's happiness. All of these emotions were played pretty well and pretty realistically by Robbie Amell. And again, I'm talking realism in the Flash, but you can really sense this uncertainty that actually resulted in occasional outward lashes. He would sort of lash out, and that would take the form of the whole Firestorm thing and the fight. But again, it's not like this guy is a villain. He is a victim of circumstance. He doesn't really do anything malicious. And when it comes to the end of the episode and how, he might go into a nuclear meltdown, a much lesser writer would have him basically say, if I die, I'm going to take everyone else with me. No, he actually goes to a very remote place far outside the city to detonate. So yeah, really liked this episode. I was surprised. So yeah, and in addition, some of the conspiracy stuff regarding, or not really conspiracy, but some of the mystery revolving around what happened the night Barry's mother died, although it didn't really have much to do with the rest of the episode, did keep me intrigued in questioning, are we finally going to get some solid evidence that Dr. Wells was there, because all evidence up to this point has pointed to him being the Reverse Flash, but them finding the DNA, a DNA sample, or I don't know if it was a DNA sample or some other science crap that indicated that an adult Barry was there that night, actually has me very interested. And although I have to wonder, are they going to introduce the whole concept of the Speed Force and the Flashpoint Paradox this soon? Or are they going to, drop that and save it for later? I hope they find a way to please both parties who want it now and parties who want it later. But again, we'll just see what happens. So yeah, like this episode of The Flash, well written, well acted, well directed. The fight scenes were used sparingly. I think there was really only one fight scene. And so for a more emotional episode like this, and for a more character-driven episode, the fight scenes were used sparingly enough, and they were not abused. Again, one fight scene, and really that's all you needed. So yeah, looking forward to the next one.